Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Bibb County Commission meeting, Committee of the Whole. Today is Tuesday, May the 11th, and the time is now 9:05. We do have a few items to handle today, and we also have some site visits once again. At this time, I do need to entertain a motion after we call to order to add item 7B to the agenda. This is a resolution to accept a memorial tree donation at Henry Burns Park in memory of Don Moore and for allowing installation of a memorial plaque. That motion is sponsored by Commissioner Al Tillman and Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Can I get a motion to add that? Got a motion by Commissioner Clark. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Watkins and Commissioner Jones. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you, and we'll add that to the agenda. This time we need to entertain a motion for the approval of minutes for the Committee of the Whole on April the 27th, 2021. Can I get a motion? Motion by Commissioner Wynn, second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion in that matter? Here, no discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. We're going to begin with the new alcohol beverage license. This is the item that was on the agenda previously, and we forwarded it to today. New alcohol beverage license for Chevron Mart, located at 1106 Rocky Creek Road, Macon, Georgia 31210. Attorney Hollingsworth, if you please come forward.
Good morning.
Good morning. I appreciate you being here today. We've had some conversation over the last 4 or 5 weeks regarding this, and a little bit of confusion with different parties showing up. So I'm glad we're all able to get here today. I do believe that we sent you a survey that you have returned, with asking for some additional information. So at this time, if you want to make a couple of comments to clear up any inconsistencies, that'll be fine. If not, I'll just see if the commissioners have any questions first.
Okay, I think I'd just go ahead and offer any questions.
Okay. This time, Commissioner Watkins, you have some questions?
No. So on question 5, it asks, was the previous operator at the location in any legal or regulatory trouble with the local government, state government, law enforcement, or the Georgia Lottery in the year prior to the transfer of the business? Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
It was 18 months before.
September of 2020?
It was July of 2019 when the infraction was.
All right.
Go ahead.
I asked the county attorney to help me out with that.
Can you hear me? Okay. By way of background, Michael McNeil, who's not here today, he'll be here in a few hours. He had a personal issue. Had contacted the Georgia Lottery Commission, and what we're able to discern about this application and the applicants to it are that, as Mr. Hollingsworth said, there was a infraction related to a gambling statute that was investigated, and the nature of it was that at this location there had been cash prizes paid out, or prizes paid out in cash, which is a violation of the law. And so at 2 different times, one in February of 2020, the Georgia Lottery Commission had sent a letter, February 12, 2020, to Anil Kumar Patel, Ruhani 22 Investments LLC, which is my understanding is the applicant in this license. Is that correct?
I was under the impression that it was in Anil's personal name, Anil Patel.
Yes. Well, the documents show that they're also the Ruhani 22 Investments LLC is the business located. That's on the application documents, and it's the same business address, 1106 Rocky Creek Road.
Okay.
So a letter was sent to Mr. Patel and Ruhani 22 Investments LLC denying the COAM coin-operated machines license application on the basis that 2 bases. One is that there had been cash prizes paid out at that location, and another that the applicant in that case Mr. Patel had connections to Hiren Patel, Hiren. They had similar business numbers, same email address. That Mr. Hiren Patel was connected to that location, to that business. And the significance of that was that on September 3rd, 2020, which is 8 months ago, Mr. Hiren Patel at that same location also was denied as a COAM license. He had applied separately, apparently, from Mr. Anil Kumar Patel, and that license had been denied by the Georgia Lottery Commission based on the payment of redeeming COAM awards by paying cash to COAM players, which is a violation of Georgia law. So that was what the Georgia Lottery Commission imparted to us. The code, our alcohol code, gives you an option to approve or deny this license, and is provided for in section 4-36. One of the bases that you have to consider, or several of the bases you have to consider in approving or denying the license, is the applicant's reputation, any manner in which the applicant conducted the alcohol beverage business under the prior license, and to the extent discovered by the commission prior to the approval or disapproval of the license, whether and to what extent there was unlawful gambling or a violation of gambling laws at that location, which that would be, according to the Georgia Lottery Commission at least, a violation of gambling laws. So that, I have no agenda on this other than to give you the background on what we discovered in the county attorney's office.
Thank you. I also understand, it's my understanding that you have from the time they first denied that operation of the lottery is, in the gambling, is a 2-year, and I think it's coming up on 6 more months before that, approximately 6 more months before that time is up. So even if you indicated today that you were not going to be having any gambling devices there or able to do the lottery there, it could be reconsidered in 6 months. That's my understanding. If I'm incorrect, please let me know. But I'm going to let Commissioner Watkins continue to ask any questions he has before we move on.
And I thank you for that. I'll yield to that.
Okay.
That's a great point. Is there an intent, when available, to reapply for a COAM machine?
We do have a current lottery license, and it is going to, under the terms of the current lottery license, they cannot have the gaming, which is correct. It is the intent of the current operator that they're not going to apply for gaming.
Any other questions, Commissioner? Commissioner Howell?
So are there machines in this establishment now or not?
There are no machines.
And they won't be any for at least 6 months?
That is correct.
Any other questions from commissioners? No questions. Is there, Commissioner Watkins?
I would like to make a motion for denial. Again, on the basis, one, in this application, they have issues with the state. We have good reason. There is limited benefit that the business provides. Again, I just make a motion for denial.
Okay. Got a motion by Commissioner Watkins. Do we have a second?
And the motion for, I'm
Excuse
sorry, and the motion for denial in the second would be based upon section 4-36 criteria that I outlined. Is that correct?
Okay. We do have a second by Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Bronson, you have a comment?
What's the second, sir?
Okay. Commissioner Lucas?
Yes, my question would be, can we, I would like to see us do a substitute motion that allows for approval but incorporates the 6 months and their statement that they're in compliance and will be in compliance after the 6 months. So I would like to do that as a substitute motion.
Let me ask you, to the point of clarification, would you withdraw subject to that and see if that goes?
Explain it for me one more time.
What I'm trying to do is to approve what's before us, but it seems like the problem is the lottery, and from what I hear, they at present are not operating, they don't have any machines or anything in the business, and then their statement is that they don't plan to have them after, when they're eligible. So my motion incorporates that statement that they've made.
So to clarify, is it the representation of the applicant that as long as if a business or an alcohol license were approved, that as long as the applicant had the alcohol license, they would not apply for or have co-am gambling machines? Is that your representation?
Okay. No alcohol, no.
Thank you. The applicant is in agreement that they would restrict having no gaming as far as their license.
As long as they have their alcohol license.
So Commissioner Watkins, you would like
Yes.
to withdraw your motion, and then
Yes.
we'll substitute that motion for Commissioner Lucas's motion, is that correct?
Is that okay?
I'm fine. Yeah, so
Okay.
I understand what you're saying. That
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and move on to
So
discussion.
let's do a motion in a second.
I see
and
that
start.
Commissioner Clark has a.
I just have a question right quick.
Well-
What's the enforcement mechanism for us to understand if that's the case in 6 months when they're able to reapply for the lottery license?
We can be in contact with the Georgia Lottery Commission, who can let us know that any kind of license that's applied for co-am machines, we can.
And if
information.
there is, what recourse do we have as a body?
The recourse, and I'll get into, I want to get a confirmation from the applicant or their attorney. Would the applicant agree, because you've represented to the commission that you will not have these gambling machines, even if you could apply for a co-am license, you're not going to as long as you have an alcohol license. Is that a fair statement?
That is our agreement, yes, sir.
Would you agree then that if you change your mind in the future, that would be a basis for the commission to withdraw the approval of the alcohol license and revoke it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Commissioner,
Can we withdraw the license midlife, or do we have to wait upon reapplication?
Based on that based on the representation of this particular applicant, you can, because they're saying that they are allowing you to revoke on the condition if they violate the condition of approval. Yes.
And I'm sorry to pick it.
Yeah.
Is the representation of the applicant here? I mean, are we just going on the word of an applicant, or is there actual legal and is this? I mean, I'm just
No,
not.
you can revoke it. The representation of the applicant who would own the property interest in the license is if it's approved and they violate the condition upon which that property interest was given, which is the approval of the license, then they are in agreement, and this is all public record, that the commission could revoke that alcohol license. Is that fair?
I look at it as a conditional license.
That's correct.
And I just want to mention
Yeah,
that we've
but
been
you agree with that, Mr. Hollingworth?
I do.
Okay.
I do agree with that. It's a conditional license.
And one more thing, can we, at a later time after the 6 month approval period, can we, as a body, know if the application has been? I mean, do we
Yeah.
have to contact the lottery individually, or can somebody?
We can follow up with the applicant's attorney and the Georgia Lottery
Okay,
Commission
thank
and give you a report in 6 months.
I'm okay with the amendment then.
Yeah.
Commissioner
just
Jones,
would
you
like
still
to-
have a question? Commissioner Jones, you still have a question? Okay. Attorney Hollingsworth, do you have a follow-up before I go to Commissioner Wynn?
I was just mentioning this, it's been operating temporarily this year without incident.
Okay. Commissioner Wynn?
I just want to make clear that you don't intend to get co-am machines even after 6 months, or do you?
We do not. We are in agreement today that our license is conditioned upon us not making application to have gaming,
Even when they can after 6
even
months?
after the 6 months. Yes, ma'am.
So my concern again is how do you check on that when it,
It's public record, we'll check on it.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Yes.
So we do have a motion and second. I think we're understanding that Commissioner Lucas's motion, Commissioner Howell's second, indicating that there will be no be conditional license. There'll be no application for the COAM machines. Of course, we have a renewal process that will come up in several months as well that we'll know of. We'll be notified of that. So Commissioner Cart, do you have a follow-up question?
Just if are we voting to amend Commissioner Watkins' original motion, or are this is the vote to approve or deny at this point?
This is a
A yay is a vote to approve, and nay, okay.
Yeah, he withdrew his motion, and we're acting solely upon Commissioner Lucas's motion. Okay. So we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving this motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay.
No.
Okay. That motion carries 8-1.
Accommodation, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to new alcohol beverage license for the Kitchen Pride Food Store located at 3101 Columbus Road, Macon, Georgia 31204. This license has come up a couple of times. We have sent the survey to the business owner. No response in the last month on that survey. We've reached out to them and can't get in touch with them by telephone as well. So we have a motion in regards to this item B.
I'd like to move that we deny it because they haven't answered the questions that they're supposed to answer for this permit.
Okay. Got a motion by Commissioner Clark, a second by Commissioner Wynn. Any further discussion? That's a motion to deny. Okay. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion to deny, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously to be sent to the consent agenda. Going to move on to resolutions, reappointments to authorities, boards, and committees. Item 3A is a resolution to appoint Otis Redding III to the Macon-Bibb County Transit Authority. That is my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion in that regard? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Was previously serving.
This was the seat by Violet Poe.
Okay.
This was a recommendation of Transit Authority and my recommendation to you. Each of you also have received copies of the resumes as well, and we have successfully completed background checks on all these reappointments. So we do have a motion and second. If no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries, will be sent to consent agenda. Item 3B is a resolution reappointing Elaine Lucas to the Central Georgia Joint Development Authority. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Second. Got a second by Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Lucas, can you tell us a little bit about that authority and you should serve on?
Yes, sir. By virtue of my election to represent District 3 on the commission, the property that is the major source of discussion and legislation and financial dealings is in District 3. And many of you know of the solar farm that's out off 247. Well, most of that land out there where the solar farm is located is in that what do they call it? It's the zone where you can't have residencies. It's just dangerous being in there, and that was declared some years ago. And so the Central Georgia Joint Development Authority was put together, was formed. Macon-Bibb, well, Bibb County at the time, Bibb County, Houston County, and Peach County were the original funding sources. And so any proceeds or any money-making projects, Bibb County gets the majority of the money. And so we have worked, or at least the staff at the Regional Commission has worked to acquire the properties in that affected area because it's just dangerous. And so I think we've been successful in acquiring all but maybe 10 properties. And we're in negotiation now with the owners of the properties to continue acquisition. We're at a point now where we are in a contract with Georgia Power. They're the ones who have placed the solar farm out there. We've got a complicated deal, and don't ask me to tell you all of the details. Mayor probably knows all the details because he also serves on there. We are at a point now where very soon you're going to be invited to the official opening of the solar field. It's called Project SOAP. That was the code name for it. And we negotiated, and this entity borrowed money to buy out all the property and also engage with Georgia Power. Very soon you're going to see substantial monies, like in the millions, coming into Bibb County. And Houston County will get a smaller amount, and Peach County will get an even smaller amount, because what you get back depends on what the percentage of money that you put in. So that's the really good thing about it. It's been my pleasure, and I've learned a lot about funding of projects in counties, and the Central Georgia Development Authority is one of those entities that we don't know a lot about, but they do an awful lot to assist counties in special development projects. And so by virtue of the fact that I represent the area that that's located in, then I'm automatically, by practice, a member of the authority.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. This has a lot to do with protecting Warner Robins Air Force Base and BRAC as well, and that's why the group was initially set up. Bibb County is represented by several members. I will be bringing a couple more recommendations to your replacements in the very near future.
Let me say one other thing. The electricity that's being generated will serve as backup to Robins Air Force Base as well. So that's another thing.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. We do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. We'll move on to our final recommendation for appointment. This is a resolution to appoint Bishop Bentley to the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority. This will fill the position for Walt Miller. That is my motion. Can I get a second? Got a second by Commissioner Lucas. Any discussion? I will say Ms. Bentley presently serves in governmental affairs at Middle Georgia State University. She has substantial contacts to Macon-Bibb County. Of course, she is a female, and she will be the second female on the typically all-male board. She's substantially qualified for this. Also, with our relationship with Middle Georgia State University, you know they have a substantial interest in making sure that the airport downtown is promoted, and they have the flight school out there. You've received copies of her resumes. We'll try to have her here next week. Middle Georgia State University has their convocation at 10 o'clock today, therefore she couldn't be here this morning. I think most of you know her. If not, we can get you any information we can on that. But we do have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. That motion carried. We're going to move on to purchases and sale agreements. We have several of those today. The first item is item 4A, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with Wade Ford, Inc. in an amount of $102,879 for the purchase of 3 Ford Explorers vehicles, with funds to be paid from the District Attorney Capital Improvement Fund and General Fund. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Got a second by Commissioner Howell. Any discussion in this regards? I'm not sure if we have pictures up there or not, but hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, there we go. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Apologize. I remember y'all asked for pictures, so I want to make sure we got them up there. Item 4B is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with Williams Communications, Inc. in an amount of $69,490.45 for the purchase of radio communication equipment to be paid from the General Fund, Sheriff Patrol, repairs and maintenance, and community equipment. That is my motion. Can I get a second? We got a second by Commissioner Wilder. I know we have Interim Chief Edwards here today. If there's any question in that regard, as well as Dr. Moffitt. This is for radio communications for those departments I mentioned. Commissioner Bronson.
Just out of curiosity, which type of radios are we dealing with as far as frequency-wise goes?
I didn't understand your question, Commissioner Bronson.
The type of radios that
Okay.
we're purchasing.
It's the ones we currently have.
The handhelds.
So we have a replacement plan every year. So these are for this year's replacements.
Okay, and as far as the communication equipment for dive team, have we incorporated that as well, or am I too right field on that one?
That's another item that we're working on, but we did put the PO in requisition for the dive team equipment. That's in the works to make that happen. But this is to continue the goal of getting radios on each individual firefighter throughout the department as they're responding to emergency calls.
Right, sir. Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item 4C, I do have some additional information to let you know. Number one, this is a time-sensitive item, so we definitely need to vote on this next Tuesday, up or down. I'm not going to ask for a vote today and consider this an information item. The reason why is that the vendor misquoted the amount on the invoice that we submitted to you. That was $166,000. There's also a there's a $50,000 difference. So I don't want to ask for a vote today when you're just getting that information, but we will send that to you in hopes for a final vote next Tuesday night. But this would be a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with Williams Communication in an amount of $166,628.60 for the purchase of 60 Harris XL 150 radios with funds paid from the same information technology, IT radio systems, computers, and hardware. But because of that $50,000 difference, I do not want to take a vote on this. I'm going to pass this until next Tuesday, but because it is time sensitive on there, I would like to have a vote next Tuesday on that. No, sir, the 166 is not correct. That's the information we submitted to you because that's what they submitted to us. But since there was a vendor misquoted, it'd be $50,000 more.
More.
Yeah, if it's 50 less, we wouldn't have this conversation. So we're going to pass on that item just to let you know, and we'll get you some additional information for vote next Tuesday. Move on to item D, which is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with Bergkamp in an amount of $203,503 for the purchase of a truck-mounted FP5 flameless pothole patcher. Sounds interesting. With funds paid from the Capital Improvement Fund, Public Works, Vehicles line item. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Got a second by Commissioner Bronson. Any question in this regard? I know we need it. We do a lot of work on there. This is a brand new piece of equipment, and apparently everybody supports it since there's no questions. So we do have a motion and second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Yes, ma'am.
Would that require special training to drive that and operate that? I mean, that looks like a big piece of equipment.
We have one. This is a replacement, so if it
This
does,
is
we've
a
been
replacement.
provided.
We have the
So we
personnel
have one
already in
already?
place to do that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This is replaced, and the current one we have is old, but we'll be put in surplus.
So they know how to operate it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item E. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with Inclusion Solutions, LLC, in the amount of $84,265 for the purchase of voting booths and related equipment to be paid from out of the Board of Elections grant funds, small equipment and improvement line item. Commissioners, if you may recall, I sent an email out in regards to this. Once you have two back-to-back resolutions like this with different amounts, we want to make sure it was not a duplicate. This is not a duplicate, but what they do is they bundle these election booths in 100 lots. So we have two separate invoices, two separate amounts, 100 per. The reason the second item is a little bit cheaper is because they gave a discount because of the bulk on the second package. So we do have two separate resolutions that we'll be voting on. They're both for the same items, but we'll receive a discount on the second item. So this time we have that resolution E. I'd entertain a motion to approve. Commissioner Lucas, can I get a second? Commissioner Bronson. Any question in that regard? Here no questions. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item F is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with Inclusion Solutions in the amount of $82,765. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Wynn. Any discussion in regards to this amount of this item? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Next item is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with Prologic ITS LLC in the amount of $181,749 for the purchase of 50 Panasonic ToughPads, tablets, and equipment, mobile data terminals, with funds to be paid from the SPLOST 2018 Public Safety IT property line item. We have someone speaking on that this morning, Chief Edwards. Corey, you have some information on that as well or not? Okay. Yes, sir. Can you tell us a little bit about this technical information?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. The MDTs are the mobile data terminals that we use to dispatch calls in our fire apparatus. They're instrumental in response times, also vital information that's related to that call when we're responding. The MDTs that we currently have are out of warranty. We are having to send those units back on a regular basis to Panasonic for repair. I did bring an estimate just as a estimate that I got back in July of 2020 that is a cost of about $1,500 just to repair an MDT when the screen goes out, and other features on the MDT as well. So the MDTs that we're looking at purchasing will come with a Panasonic plan, a 5-year plan that is a full package to warranty it, and if we have any issues or concerns during that time, all we have to do is pack it up, ship it to them, and they'll have one sent right to us to replace them. So this is a vital part of our response and emergency response to our calls and things that we have.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Wynn, I know you wanted to be a co-sponsor on that. Okay. Commissioner Jones, you have a question?
Yeah, I'll be a co-sponsor as well. Just wanted to ask Chief, what's the typical life of one of these MDTs, mobile data terminals?
Yes, sir. The mobile data terminals, well, as with anything in IT, and I would have to go back to Mr. Blowerf on this, is, you know, technology with computers are everlasting, changing on a regular basis. So a lot of times when we get those units in 2 or 3 years in, there's already new technology out there for computer terminals that need to be upgraded. So these are going on 6 years of a lifespan. They are out of warranty, and we have constantly had to do updates. I've actually had a few that we tried to update to Windows 10, and they did not take as we needed them to. So we're still operating the current system we have now on a Windows 7. But as computers change over time, we do have to, you know, periodically do those updates. But
So they have a 5 full-year warranty, and they'll replace them for any reason within that 5 years?
yes, sir, from what I've researched on
Ones you
the
had currently
contract.
didn't have a 5-year warranty, or they did?
We did have a 3-year warranty on the ones that we did have, and at the end of 3 years, I started working with Panasonic, having to swap out numerous keyboards and issues that we were having. Panasonic did come in and do everything they could after that warranty to keep us running. So I think that this contract probably came in knowing that we had issues in the past and that we were out of that warranty, and being able to get the new units would definitely help us.
Any other? Okay. I do want to add Commissioner Wynn, Commissioner Jones, and Commissioner Bronson as a co-sponsor of that. Anyone else, please let Janice know. We'll be happy to answer you. Commissioner Lucas?
Certainly you want to, I'd like to have my name added too. And this is the fire department, right?
Yes, ma'am, it is for all the fire apparatus.
I knew that from the discussion. And I just want to go on record as saying, unless they're buying in the fire department, unless they're buying luxury lots like Bezos bought, or unless they're going to strip clubs, I'm going to be voting for it, because in 2009, this fire department saved my 2 grandchildren from the downstairs bathroom when we had a fire, and they went in there and saved those two kids. And so I'll be voting for just about anything from the fire department. I know they always give logical, they give, you know, the reason for it, and it's always good. But I just want you to know that up front, that it's a yes for the fire department.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. I appreciate that support. So we do have a motion and seconds and no further discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Gonna move on to item H. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with LSC Environmental Products, LLC, in the amount of $110,685 for the purchase of a post-shell applicator and hose with funds to be paid from the SPLOST 2018 fund, landfill closure, solid waste, machineries, and equipment line item. Dr. Moffitt, could you give us a report on that, please, before we vote?
Yes, sir. This is a posi-shell machine that will we will use in lieu of dirt. What this machine allows us to do is to spray a application on the working face. If you recall from our tour, you see that you remember every day we have to go out and put dirt over this working face. This will allow us to put a spray which is EPD approved, which will be turn into like a hard covering. So we can do this in lieu of dirt. It'd be much cheaper than us having to always go out and buy dirt.
Okay. You heard the explanation. This is coming out of the post-closure funds for closure of the landfill, and it's something that's going to save us money in the future on dirt for sure. So any other questions in that regard? Hearing no.
Can you
Commissioner
throw the
Bronson?
picture back up one more time? Can you throw the picture back up one more time?
Sure.
Thank you.
See from the picture, it works like an applicator you've seen hook up to a hose. We have a very old one which did not have the capacity to do the covering that we need to do. So this new one will allow us to it'd be faster, cheaper, and more efficient.
Yeah, I think we were trying to do it a certain manner, and the EPA basically told us we could not do that. So this equipment is not only going to save the money, it's going to make us more compliant with that. Commissioner Watkins, did you have a question?
Curious about the environmental, like it degrades at some point, or do we buy more, or is it just like a?
Well, it's EPD approved for the environmental aspects of what it's like a sand mixed with a, I don't want to say cement, and I'm talking way above my pay grade here, but it is something that goes out and it's a plastic cover that's, I assume, biodegradable, because it is something that's going to be covered repeatedly, because you do the working face, you cover it that day, you do the working face the next day, you cover it, so it's a continuing process.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, can I get a motion to approve? A motion by Commissioner Wynn, second by Commissioner Jones. Having no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously, be sent to the consent agenda. Item 5 is contracts for implementation or renewal. Item 5A is a resolution authorizing the mayor to approve a right-of-way spraying contract with NutriChem, Inc. in the amount of $57,540.22 to be paid from the general fund. The purpose of this, I'll give you a little background information on there. The purpose of this is to help out. First of all, this is safe and it's used widely, and it's approved for all environmental purposes, so we can get that out of the way. The purpose is to extend the time that we have to do the grass cutting, since we're not able to, at least right now, get to all the areas before they start growing again. This would actually allow us to get to save 2 cuts of grass by spraying this, which means by the time we cycle back around, we can cut the grass again after doing this spray. Whereas before, the grass would get higher before we could actually get around back to a particular area to cut. So it's going to help save us money in the long run by spending this money, because it's going to save us 2 full cuts. It's going to beautify our county to make the grass look better and lower in most places. As far as the items here, this is something that we're trying out. We also may consider using this at the cemeteries that we're in charge of maintaining if it's sufficient. So this is going to be a trial process for us to make sure we can time this out right. This particular group's Commissioner Watkins had sent a request, I think sometime last year, with a particular 18 area cut that he consider entranceways, gateways in Macon-Bibb County that have high growth areas. We used that at one point to do an RFP to get a price on what it would cost to cut these areas, and it was extremely high, to the extent of about $2.8 million, if I remember, a little over $2 million. But these are the areas we're using. We'll be happy to send you a list of that by email if you'd like to do this process here, so you can see. But that is the purpose that we're doing this, to try to save money, but also to expedite the time that the grass cutting gets taken care of. So we do believe this is going to create some cost savings, and it's going to beautify our county. Commissioner Wynn, do you have a question?
To follow up, because I know you and I asked you about this. This is 18 areas that have been identified that we're going to use this in. Is that correct, Dr. Moffitt?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct, and it is in your package in the resolution. Right behind it is Exhibit A.
Okay.
And it has the 18 groupings, and each grouping has about 5 to 6 streets in each grouping. So each grouping would be sprayed twice, and as the mayor said, this would help us
Extend.
more manageable is not right. So more, well, manage it more in the cutting with Parks and Public Works.
Does it kill the grass or kill the weeds or whatever it is along the roads?
It slows the time that
I mean, turns it brown or whatever.
No, well, no, ma'am. That's one of the things that we did
Just-
ask. So no, it
Yeah.
just really, as you say, it as he says, makes it more manageable to cut. So it kind of, it's not like weed killer,
Okay.
but it does slow down the growth process.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Jones.
Yes, sir. So it retards the growth, but it doesn't kill the grass, and it doesn't kill wildlife, anything like that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Watkins.
I just wanted to speak a little bit on, so on the groupings. What I asked the engineering and public works department, and I think the county attorney's office helped out too, was to find us the most frequently traveled streets in our community. And I think at one point we were thinking about it like in 4 tiers. So these would be the top 2 tiers. They're about 1,200 miles worth of streets in our community. And I think this identified about in between like 350 and 400 miles worth of streets that are most frequently traveled. And then they grouped them into 18 groups just based on proximity to each other. The idea that we had, where we originally started with the request for how much would it cost for a private contractor to cut the grass. And the question was, like, so how to cut these 18 areas once a month, but then twice during the summer months, so a total of 18 cuts per year. I think it came out to roughly $110,000 per cut, but that still put us, like the mayor mentioned, for a year cost out about $2 million. We asked the public works department in-house how much that would cost, and they said that it would cost about $1 million in additional staff, and also $4 million in additional equipment, the weed eaters and the mowers. But I think it's important for us to realize that those are the cost of things. If we want our right-of-ways maintained pristinely, and that also for, I know at least for the private contractor, that included litter pickup. Today, I think the administration is correct. They're trying to come up with a way to, cut that cost down. And that's how we got here with the spraying. But I think we should do the spraying, but I'm still concerned on who's gonna cut the grass, cause it needs to be cut. But yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Watkins. And I will say that this grouping can change based on commissioners' wants and needs, and this is a trial and error basis. We want to make sure this does what it says it's going to do before we move to the next level. So I think we've got a chance to do that. Also, just a little teaser, and I've spoken to many of you about the upcoming budget proposal that I'll be making next week, and you'll see a substantial increase in the amount of money that I put out there for beautification of not only our gateways but all of our areas of Macon-Bibb County. So having said that, Commissioner Watkins, would you like to make that motion to approve? So moved by Commissioner Watkins. I get a second. Second by Commissioner Bronson. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Move on to item B, which is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Geiger, Lynch, McBain, Campbell Engineers to provide professional engineering consulting services for the structural support needed for the new center hung scoreboard at Macon Centerplex Coliseum in the amount of $13,200 to be paid from SPOS fund. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Wynn. Do you have a picture of there? Okay. This is something that's previously approved, but this is for the consultant to make sure that the structure and engineering was done correctly to support it. Commissioner Wynn, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a question that really has nothing to do with that, but the sign at the Centraplex, the exterior sign on the interstate is busted. Are we gonna look into that?
Gary Wheat is working in conjunction with the Centraplex for some new signage there, and it's in the works now out of his funds. So.
It looks kinda bad.
Yeah, we expect that to be completed shortly. Thank you. We do have a motion and second, and no further discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. That motion carries. Going to move on to item C. Item C is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement with WT Designs in an amount not to exceed $5,000 for preparation of landscape plan of 5 interstate interchanges to be paid from capital improvement fund. Michael Glisson, would you approach, please? And Mr. Glisson, if you could just give us a brief synopsis of the process with DOT, what our discussions have been in regards to these gateways, and what we're asking for today.
Yes, sir. Based off of a meeting that Mayor and I had with Frank, we kind of came up with an approach to kind of beautify some of our interstate interchanges, and we kind of just narrowed down kind of the 4 or 5 more key points and key interchanges, which would include Forsyth Hardeman, Rocky Creek on I-75, Georgia 129, which is the Geico exit on I-16, Eisenhower at I-75, and Arkwright Road at I-75. And again, this is similar to some of the projects you see up around Atlanta, you know, where they're beautifying their entry points through the interstate. But yeah, there is a kind of an extensive permitting process we have to go through GDOT. And one of the key things to remember is that once we do this work, we inherit the maintenance aspect of this too. And you can almost bet that each interstate interchange will be about $15,000 to $20,000 a year for maintenance. And I mean, you know, again, that's whether we do it in-house or we sub it out, but you can estimate about $15,000 to $20,000 in maintenance for each interchange. And right now we have 5, so that would be, you know, doing the math, close to 100,000.
Yes, sir. And I neglected, I sent an email out to commissioners and neglected to put the Geico in there because that was important as well.
Right.
And we had the Pine on a Rocky Creek. I'm not sure if you said that one.
Rocky Creek, yes, sir.
But we have several of these. The ones that we did not include are already in good shape, have been adopted by other initiatives going on, or otherwise maybe an extended, like Hartley Bridge Road has about a mile exit off. So we really don't have a lot to landscape there. We certainly can reconsider those later. When I mentioned earlier about putting additional monies in the budget, this roughly $100,000 to beautify our county where people get off the exit at is included in that monies that we talked about. So when we first started this project, I was not aware that you could not start planning until October on these exit ways. So we do have some time to get this process. I believe this is a nominal fee to design all those. We're also going to submit with the Department of Transportation. I've met with them on 2 occasions, plans for this to make sure we get their approval because they can't instruct any signs. You got to let them know how you're going to water the shrubberies and flowers if you need to, provide irrigation for them. It can't instruct any lightways, and also you want to make it very consistent where it's easy to cut around and maintain. And we'll bring back any results of that once we get to it, together with the RFP to look at having landscape companies put in for bids on these, or perhaps adopt these is something that I'd like to see. So I know Commissioner Wynn wanted to be a co-sponsor to that as well. Commissioner Wynn, do you have any other questions?
Did you mention Gray Highway?
No, ma'am.
We did not include those because right now with the I-16-75 corridor, they're going to be still working that. There's also some money for the gateways in those areas included in that project. So we'll wait to see if they how they spend that money first. But it wouldn't do us any good to do anything in those areas right now because it's gonna mess it up.
Way out, would that include way out in Gray Highway?
We're talking about the exit ways right now. These 5 or 6 are getting off the exits.
I'd like to go beyond that at some point in time because where you come into different areas, like you go to Columbus, you see the pretty trees coming in on 80.
Right.
Something like that would be good for Gray Highway, but you know, just asking.
Yeah,
yes, ma'am. I mean, and as a side note, we are working with Gary Wheat with a gateway signage project that would be Gray Highway and a few other spots included. So I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be landscape, but it would be signage. So.
Okay. Commissioner Tillman?
Is this a partnership with the state did I miss something, or the gentleman mentioned the state, or we just got to get permission
Well,
from
we have to-
DOT, or is there a partnership with them? Or-
We have to get the approvals from GDOT to move forward. They have to approve our landscape plans, and once they approve it, then that's kind of the extent
So
of the
they're
partnership.
not spending any money or partnering on this project?
No, sir. And truthfully, we shouldn't have any problem with GDOT turning this, approving this, because that, it's all, relieves them of a lot of maintenance work, and it becomes us at that point.
So are they spending any money? Have they restarted their budget back up?
GDOT?
Yeah. Do we know? Because they were supposedly be in charge of these, and I mean, I think it's a good initiative that we're going to start it. But they were originally supposed to be in charge of this, and they stopped. They were doing something like once a year.
Well,
So I mean, you're talking about. We're going to spend up to $5,000. So where the other $20,000 you said was coming from?
Well,
Up to
GDOT, I mean,
$20,000?
they are.
The $5,000, the Commissioner tell me, is for the designing of all these exits
Right.
and getting approval from GDOT. The $15,000 roughly, $15,000 to $20,000 is maintenance per year on each of these exits.
Is that by the state? Or
By
still
us, we will
by
contract
us.
private
Okay.
services out, and of course, we're gonna look for folks that may want to adopt it to promote their business as
Yeah,
well.
I would be interested in just in knowing what are they currently spending, because they used to do this, and I think it's great now that we have funding to do this and take on this initiative. So because I just know it's always been an issue in trying to get them to maintain their streets that we
Right.
have to get permission to do everything for.
I think the problem here is they maintain it on their schedule and their time and their control, and it doesn't look to our beautification standards, so we wanna up the game. So, Commissioner Watkins, did you have a question?
Like on the overall upkeep, like for the 100,000 a year, did that include? Was that prior to like the Nature Chem spray?
Well, Nature Chem, their sprays aren't going to be on the interstate. Like, these are the interstate on and off ramps, the kind of the landscape grass areas you see between the on and off ramps and the interstate.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nature Chem wouldn't be spraying any of those areas.
Why not?
Well, I mean, it just wasn't included in that bid package that we put in for them. But I
Did
mean,
wouldn't it save us money?
that was something that once we get into the meat and potatoes of this, once we start, talking with landscape companies about the maintenance, and that was definitely a proposal that I was going to pitch. But cause again, like Mayor said, I've been trying to do that with the cemeteries and other things. It definitely saves money.
Okay.
So I mean, it can be something that we explore. And like I said, the $20,000 is kind of the Cadillac version of a maintenance plan. We can kind of scale that back and maybe do some things in house or whatever to reduce that. We shouldn't expect to see more than $20,000 per interchange. It should be $20,000 or less.
Fine. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That completes your questions, Commissioner Watkins?
Yes.
Okay.
Just for your mindset, I mean, you just kind of look at it at what they're doing out on I-475 at the E-bid, 475 at Eisenhower. That would be a similar kind of what we're going to do at all these other interchanges.
And Mercer does their own.
And Mercer does their own. That's why Mercer's
that'll
not
give you
included on
indication.
this.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Commissioner Watkins, you have a follow-up question?
That was me. Yeah, and listen, the funding has
Tell me, I'm
nothing to do with my question, regardless of what we spend. I was just trying to see what was the state doing or GDOT, because I mean, this is just a great initiative for us to take on, and yeah, what's happened with the Eisenhower I-475 is something that we worked on and just really is amazing.
Yes, sir.
Look like it's an ongoing project. So yeah, we appreciate y'all paying
Yes, sir.
attention and can go and learn from that. And so it has nothing to do with funding. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for taking on this and adding this in. And,
Yes, sir.
and thank y'all. I'm just trying to see how we can get more from the state.
Yeah, and
Just see
I'll tell
what
you-
are they doing. I was just curious
I've
because
fought
it's just
that
been
battle with them several
years
times.
trying to get them on board with stuff.
GDOT's, they're kind of scaling back their workforce and things like that, from what I'm told. So I mean, if we get 2 or 3 cuts a year, then we've done something. So
And just so the commission would know, and eventually, although Eisenhower is not included, hopefully by the 1st of June, we'll be coming in here with the BID to do an update and presentation. GDOT has allowed us over there in that area from that I-475 to add 26 lights. If y'all get a chance to ride over there, so it really looks good. And so I mean, staffing changes up so much, but that's just some stuff that's been done, and just to see this happening to make all our intersections look good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Commissioner Tillman. Commissioner Bronson?
Sure. Oh, there we go. I'm not sure if it's already been asked. I think you did mention it. What are we looking at when it boils down to like partnering with local community organizations or minority-owned groups that can come in and handle some of the upkeep, right? We got a number of organizations, McGee Enterprises, tailor-made organizations that come out and specialize in what we're trying to get done. And I would love to kind of see that money drive back into the community, especially for the minority-owned businesses out there. So what are we looking at on that end? Have we developed a list of organizations that we can pull from and say, you take this, or how's
Yeah,
that?
I think the situation we're looking at now is first step is to get the design done. Second is get it approved by GDOT.
Okay.
And the third is going to be how we get that the jobs out, working together with our small business. I've already spoke with Sharice Stevens in this regards, because
Awesome.
there are a lot of minority landscapers in Macon-Bibb County.
Yes, sir.
And we certainly want to continue to work with our local businesses for sure. So at that RFP stage, together with our procurement, we're going to put together a process to make sure that everyone's adequately represented. Doesn't mean one company will get all the exits, but certainly I think we need to spread the pie a little bit, and I think we will in this case. But this will give a chance for them too. Perhaps if we able to get some signage approved saying this exit is done by ABC designers, to get them a little bit, and also maybe somebody wants to do like Mercer did and adopt a certain area as well to save us some money. But I do think it's a great focus. The information you're talking about is kind of on the back end. We haven't got there yet. This is just initial stage that wanted to do this early, because we can't get approval until October.
And I will say, as part of the GDOT approval to move forward with acquiring this property and us doing the landscaping and all, they do want to see an upfront landscaping maintenance agreement. So I mean, that it seems a little on the back end right at this moment, but it will actually come to the front end pretty quick. So I mean, we will put it out to several local landscapers to be able to bid on that.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, granted, as you said before, it's on the back end, as you're already, I'm kind of the exit strategy type person. So if we can get these guys already listed prior to,
Right.
and then that way, when it does happen, they can just react. It doesn't have to be another 3 to 6 months waiting to get teams put together. We can just say, these are the contracts we have in place, and move them from there.
And like Mayor said, we can't actually plant anything because of GDOT requirements. We can't plant anything until October and November anyway. So we do have some time.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Bronson. Commissioner Watkins?
To Commissioner Bronson's point, like on the previous item, we were talking about the 18 groupings. So originally when we did our RFP, that was our expectation and goal, but we only had 2 respondents. So the way it was built was we have 18 groups, and a respondent or a vendor could respond to any one group or all 18. We had 2 respondents, and they responded to all 18 in their grouping. One of them was a company out of Atlanta, and the other one was a larger company. That was both, I think, had contracts with the state. But the initial thought was, hopefully we can get, a small company, some guys that just got 2 weed eaters and a lawnmower that could cut 15 miles of road in a week's span, and allow them. But and again, the total price from that contract that came out to $2 million. I think if we were doing it in a way where we had 7 contractors doing 18 routes, it would probably have been a more expensive deal. But again, it's the price of keeping our city clean. If we want a grade A aesthetic city versus what I'm gonna say a C we got now, we're gonna have to spend a amount of money. I know we can't go crazy with it, but we are talking about the cost of cutting grass. So I know it's sticker shock when we talk about a new thing costing $2 million or $1 million, but as we talk about the new budget, and again, that money, if we do it the way you're talking about, taking care for local citizens to do the work, is coming right back into our community, making ourselves look better, putting money in folks' pockets. Like, it's very little negatives to such a thing. But I'll yield.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. Commissioner Tillman?
Well, as everybody could see, I think this could be a part of the mayor's Clean Streets initiative. But when it comes to cleaning the community, the passion y'all can see and hear, whether it's $5,000 or whatever, people are interested. I will say this to the commission. I would not be in support, and we got to be very cautious when we're talking about local groups cleaning up an interstate. We can't have that. We're still trying to train folks how to walk across the street on Pine on Avenue. And so to have somebody and suggest that volunteer groups going to be out on the interstate is a no-no. And we have to be very cautious with that. So these folks are experts. They know what they're doing. The state knows what they're doing. Let them handle it. Let us not get into talking about we want to go out there and get somebody to volunteer and work on interstate exits. That's just too dangerous in my opinion. So let's be cautious with that.
Yeah, my volunteer was volunteer payment, not going out
Well,
to adopt it, to pay for it.
I was responding to the commissioner and saying we want groups and we all excited about, oh, let's go out here on the interstate. It ain't gonna work. Don't do that.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. It's a great conversation to have, and it is good conversation, even though we're only talking about $5,000 right now. It shows the commitment that we have. This is economic development. This is tourism, and certainly I think money well spent, so I don't think we scared anybody off talking about the money today. So having heard all that, can I get a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Wynn. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Tillman. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Move on to budget transfers and supplemental appropriation. Item 6A is an ordinance to authorize a budget transfer within the Vehicle Maintenance Department budget from the salary and wages overtime line item to the salary and wages additional regular line item in the amount of $35,000 to provide for wages, mechanics, and vehicle maintenance department. Dr. Moffitt, can you give us an update on that before we vote?
Yes, sir. Vehicle maintenance is one of our enterprise funds, and in this particular fund, as of today, they've not used any overtime. What is happening is in vehicle maintenance, the mechanics are paid what we call a flat rate, so they get paid per job. And so in order to do that, we have our regular salaries line item, and we have what we call an additional regular pay in the salary line item. What we're requesting is to finish out this budget year is to move $35,000 from the unused overtime line, that they hadn't had to use it, to this additional salary line item, because we do have a couple of vacancies in the department, and the mechanics have been doing more jobs, so therefore the increase has come out of that additional salary line item, and it's actually called additional regular. That's what I was trying to say. Okay. Additional regular. So again, this is no increase, this is no additional money. All we're doing is just moving money that we would have spent probably in overtime into the additional regular line item.
Thank you, Dr. Moffitt. Any questions for Dr. Moffitt? Mr. Wynn?
Just a real quick question, because you and I talked about it. He and I talked about it. We are short-staffed a little bit there, right?
Yes, sir. So, I mean, yes, ma'am. And part of that discussion is, in the mechanics world, is it better to pay a higher salary line item or to continue to pay what we use, our current system is this flat rate? I've had mechanics say that it's beneficial on both sides. So we've talked about that every year in the budget that I've been here. We've yet to make, I think we tried to make that change a couple of years ago, decided not to, and we are still looking at it now as far as which is better. Really, we've done the math both ways, and it kind of equals out. But it's kind of what gives the mechanic the incentive to do more jobs, as opposed to, you take your vehicle, you get an oil change. You get a flat rate for an oil change, whether it takes a mechanic 15 minutes or it takes him an hour, he still get paid for the price of that job, as opposed to paying him a salary where now he can take 5 hours to do the oil change and still get the flat rate salary. So that's the debate in the mechanics world.
Yeah, I'm pleased that they haven't used their overtime, but and we're just moving some money within that budget line.
Thank you, Commissioner Quinn. That is my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Howell. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously to be sent to consent agenda. Item B, 6B, is an ordinance authorizing supplemental appropriation from fund balance to the Superior Court clerk's budget, professional services, other line items in the amount of $36,600 to provide funds for the purpose of hiring an outside contractor to assist with real estate and indexing services. The reason for this, Dr. Moffitt.
Yes, and Ms. Woodford apologized. She cannot be here this morning. They are starting back, well, not starting back, but they have juries this morning, so things are ramping back up in the judicial system. And this is one of those things that happened due to COVID. they got behind, and they have to get these indexes done. I believe she said they're like 3 months of work to be done due to shortages that they had during the COVID season, and this is going to help get that caught up, and they have to do it. So this is the recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Moffitt. Any questions, Dr. Moffitt? Here are no questions. Can I get a motion to approve? Mr. Lucas, do you have a question? I'm sorry.
Wondered if he had just a little bit more explanation of what an indexing.
What it is we've got a lot of real estate filings, and they're required to be filed by law. They're 88 days behind in filing a lot of that. So she needs to bring an outside company to get them caught up because of COVID. So this is something we have to do. It creates some substantial hardships for people who file things, and maybe get loans attached to them or pay them off early.
And I think not just shortage on our side, but the industry shortage also. Everything's happening as things are ramping back up. So this is to get caught up.
Commissioner Jones, did you have a question?
My question is, we have a regular person who does this currently, is that right?
Yes, she has staff that does this regularly.
Yes, several staff.
So they haven't been doing it because the cases haven't been proceeding through the
Correct.
system?
No, sir. This is real estate, and they haven't been doing this because they've been short-staffed and because of they've had some outbreaks of COVID in that office and had to shut down for periods of times, which had put them behind. They do have the staff to handle this on a regular basis.
Correct.
The reason they're coming now is because the pandemic related.
So for 3 months, it's going to cost $36,000 for this outside service to catch it up.
Yes, sir, and then any future needs we'll address in her budget. Thank you, Mr. Jones. That is my motion. Can I get a second? Motion by Commissioner Lucas. Any further discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Going to move on to other items, and we have a presentation first. That is a resolution to provide $426,000 to Hawthorne Commons Limited Partnership to be paid from Economic and Community Development Home Great Funds upon receipt of allocation of housing tax credits from the Department of Community Affairs for Hawthorne Commons Development Project. Thank you, Ms. Jackson, for being here today. And I understand we have a presentation.
Yes, we do. Actually, we do have Denny Blackburn as well as Greg Bayard that are with Hawthorne Commons that will do the presentation. We already have the presentation that Ms. Gamble is actually bringing up at this time. So in this particular presentation, they'll talk a little bit about what they're proposing as far as this particular development. For economic and community development, it's $426,000 that we are recommending as far as home funds. This is toward a tax credit project. It will be 48 residential units. This will be at the Virgil Power School. They'll have a couple of pictures to show you exactly where that location is. And in that, they will talk about the breakdown as far as that is concerned. I'll go ahead and turn it over to
Okay. If you could please identify yourself once more when you get up there. I didn't quite catch the names and who you're from, and I may not be the only one. And are we gonna? Is the video okay? Queued up okay? Or are we having some technical difficulties? Okay. I see a green screen.
Unless the first slide's a green.
Well, it's correct here. So let me flip around on the monitor screen. And if y'all will just tell me when to forward the slide, sure. I'll next it for y'all.
Thought it was a green screen. Yeah, we're all good now. We appreciate that. No problem. And yes, sir, you may begin and go ahead and identify your name and who you're with, and then let her know when you need to have it changed.
Sure. Well, Mayor and Council, good morning. My name is Denny Blackburn. I'm with Woda Cooper Companies, and I'm based out of Savannah, Georgia. And I'm here today with Greg Bayard, who is the Executive Director of Parallel Housing out of Athens. And we'll introduce ourselves and the companies a little bit as part of the presentation, if you allow me to.
Yes, sir.
So next slide, please. This is what we'd like to outline today with you. Just give a very brief introduction on our two companies and who we are, and then give you some basic data information on Hawthorne Commons. Some of you may recall we actually did submit this to the Department of Community Affairs last year, and we're back again with a slightly different modified version. We'll go into the site concept design and floor plans that we actually have at the moment, and go over to what we're actually requesting from total support from Macon-Bibb County, and finish with some pictures of other developments that we have shown. Next slide, please. So Woda Cooper Companies is a privately owned company owned by Jeff Woda and David Cooper. It's formed in 1990, so we have over 30 years of experience in the business. We are headquartered in Columbus, Ohio, and as I mentioned, I'm based in Savannah, Georgia, and I handle the development activities for the Southeast. We develop in 15 different states. We are a national leader. We are currently ranked 10th in the nation in terms of development of affordable housing. We have in our portfolio over 350 different properties and over 13,500 units actually under management. We are long-term owners, but by that I mean we're fully integrated. We develop, we construct, and we manage. I think it's very important to know that we manage, we stay involved actually in the community once we come in. Next slide. Do you want to just quickly do it? Okay. Parallel Housing is a nonprofit based out of Athens, Georgia. They have 19 years of experience in the affordable housing, and their mission is to provide energy efficient, sustainable housing to the communities in need. They are very energy efficient based and sustainable, and I've had the privilege of working with Greg for over 12 years now. We developed together the first LEED certified affordable housing development in the Southeast, which was actually in Savannah, Georgia, called Sustainable Fellwood. Next slide, please. This is the Hawthorne Commons site at the intersection of 2nd, Hawthorne, and 3rd. The site is comprised of actually 2 parcels, and you can see that it's been outlined there in red. Next slide, please. I'm sure you're very familiar with it's a very, very grandiose former school building. Next slide. And we look forward to redeveloping partially this building with 24 units, and also put a new construction in with another 24 units, which will bring the total development up to 48 units. Next slide, please. The site is 2.29 acres. And as I mentioned, we're going to renovate 2 of the historic buildings. One is the major school building that you can see, and there's also an auxiliary building which is behind the actual Virgil Powers School, which had the former auditorium in that. And then it will be a new 3-story building. Attached to that 3-story building will be all the community activities, leasing office, community room, fitness, and computer room. We do have a purchase agreement at the moment with the Macon-Bibb County Urban Development Authority. We are acquiring the property at full price. Next slide, please. Not sure if you can see all the actual breakdown of the units, but I thought I'd put this up here in case people would like to see the breakdown. We have a mixture of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, and then we also have a mixture of levels of residence, whether they're 50 or 60% AMI, the area medium income, that will actually be in these units. Next slide. The amenities included in this development, inside the new building, as I mentioned, we'll have, in addition to the community room, we'll have a leasing and management office. This type of property would have a full-time manager on site, as well as a maintenance technician. The amenities will include a fitness room, a computer room. We'll also have a laundry room as well. The external amenities will have a covered pavilion with tables and grills. And we'll have ample parking spaces throughout this property. We'll have 74 parking spaces on off-site. Off-street within the site itself. The units themselves will will be very well equipped. All Energy Star appliances throughout. We will have LVT flooring, washer dryer hookups. I think that's important too. I mentioned we have a laundry facility, but we'll also have washer and dryer hookups in each unit. Next slide, please. The 48 residential units will be financed by tax credits that we are applying for to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. That application will go in next week. It's going to be a multifamily general occupancy, in other words, workforce housing development. All ages will, all residents of all ages will be allowed to live in this particular property. We will use the income averaging method, which means we'll have a mixture of different units. We'll have 10 units, which will be reserved for residents earning up to 50% of the area median income, and 38 units up to 60%. We'll be following the Lead for Homes program. This is something that Greg and I are very proud of. All of our developments in the state of Georgia have all obtained a Lead for Homes Gold certification or above. So that's what we'll be aiming for as well in this particular development. There would be restricted covenants on the property to maintain its affordable housing nature for at least 30 years. And as I mentioned before, we are totally integrated. We will do the whole, we will go from development to construction to management, so we will remain involved throughout the process. Total development costs are well over $10 million. In fact, with construction costs the way they are, lumber costs at the moment, that figure is now closer to $11 million, unfortunately. Next slide. This is, I just wanted to make sure you had in your package the actual site plan that we have, and that we have submitted to the Macon-Bibb Planning and Zoning Board, who approved this actual plan a couple of weeks ago. I just want to mention it actually has two access. There'll be an access off of 2nd Street as well as an access off of Hawthorne. In fact, the main entrance will probably be off of Hawthorne. Next slide. Just to let you know, we do have floor plans for the existing historic buildings. I think this is more important to show the floor plans for the historic. It works out quite well. We'll have 9 one-bedroom units and 1 two-bedroom on each floor of the actual school. The next floor plan, that's the auxiliary building. It's a small square building. We'll have 4 units. And the next slide as well, please. This is a typical floor plan of the first floor that we will have. And you can see that at the end of that building is where we'll attach the actual community rooms on the ground floor, which will include all the amenities, and that will be quite a central position. You'll be able to see that immediately when you come off of Hawthorne, entering the site. Next slide. So what we're actually asking, we're asking for the $426,000 in home funds today. We also asked for $149,000 from the Macon-Bibb County UDA from their revolving loan fund. And I'd like to just finish. I think I've got some ideas of that. That's just that's the school on the left. You can see there, and that's just a very initial concept design of what the new building could look like. And I'd like to show just some more. Finish off with some couple of slides of what we've done before. We have actually done several conversion of school buildings before in different states. We have not done one in Georgia, and we are looking forward to do this one to be the first one here in Georgia. Next slide to just. That's another school that we did in Ohio, in Nelsonville. Next slide. One in Michigan. This one actually got a governor's award for its actually conversion. We've done several properties in Georgia. I thought we'd show some of those. That's the Sustainable Fellwood that we did. That was one of the first ones that got the LEED. That actual building on the right got a LEED for Platinum certification. Harmony Green in Pooler is another townhome development that we did outside. Then I wanted to just show that. I think it shows you those floors. Those are the LVT floors that we're now doing everywhere, and those are coming out really well. Very much appreciated by all residents. Silver Lakes in Madison, we did that's a new construction. It's in the historic district, and we made it. That's what the city wanted us to do, to make it look like it really belonged into the historic part, and that was a senior development. Last ones I'm going to show you just Malheur Point. That's a downtown development we did in East Point, south part of Atlanta, just to show you that there is no one design fits all. We have a variety of different designs that sort of integrate into the different community. And we're available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Commissioner Watkins.
Understand right? In 149 from home, 426 from us in Gap Financing. Total $10 million project. How much liquid cash are your partners putting in?
The way this works is that we put in, the total budget is about $10 million.
Mm-hmm.
We will be getting tax credits,
Mm-hmm.
and the tax credits, we then sell those tax credits to equity investors, and that brings a large part of the actual development into
I just know,
into
like,
play.
when I buy a house, like, it's like a 30% down payment.
Right.
Yeah, so cash-wise.
Right.
What is the
Right.
actual developers and investors
Right.
outside of tax credits and other governmental
Other funding and
subsidies? Right. Yeah.
the way this works is we put very little in, because we actually get a development fee, and then the building does not create a huge cash flow as you go forward. The building, because the rents are restricted, the amount of rents that come into the development, and that's the whole purpose of the tax credit development. So we will have a deferred development fee, Councilman Watkins, to start with, probably about $500,000 to start with, and we will get that over time as the development triggers a little bit of cash.
I don't know, maybe so like my question is, though, like, in terms of like the developers or the investors outside of the loan, outside of the tax credits, like actual cash money, like, is it like 5% down, 2%, 20%?
It's 2 to 5%.
2 to 5%.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
That's very standard the way tax credit developments are done.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. Commissioner Howell?
We're all aware of the current crisis with lumber prices, and I noticed that you said it went from 10.3 to 11. That seems awful optimistic to me, given the fact that lumber prices have like a 300% increase in the last 12 months. I guess I'm curious, are you guys gonna go forward with this project, win, lose, or draw at a certain time, or are you gonna wait and see what happens with lumber? Or I don't want to get in this and then you guys come back and say, hey, we kind of miscalculated here by $2 million because of lumber prices.
No, we're in this for the long run. We understand the risk on the prices. The current deals that we're actually in, we probably have about 25 developments currently under construction, and the owners are paying for that, taking it totally out of the development fee and putting in extra equity themselves into the deal to make them work.
Yeah, I understand, and
Yeah.
and hey, I applaud anybody that's building
Right.
anything right now.
Right. Well, I think if I may just add, at this particular moment, we have never seen this. I mean, this is just absolutely crazy. Some of the states are actually providing for the deals that are currently in place additional credits. They're actually providing additional credits in Georgia for deals that are actually suffering like that, where there's huge gaps being created.
Another thing, this is 48 units, correct?
Correct.
This is the total package, and that's the total package that is the 10.3 or the 11 point or whatever it is. It's all of the buildings, the new building.
That's the
what's
that is
existing there.
Yes, sir. That is the total development costs.
What's the approximate start time?
If we put the application in next week, Department of Community Affairs will actually award the allocations in November. We would then complete the process, submit the plans for permitting. That usually takes another 4 to 5 months after that. So we would probably be starting construction in just under a year from now. And it'd be a 1-year construction. So lease up would be in 2 years from today.
So the way I'm understanding it is, Macon-Bibb County is partnering in so much that we're investing $26,000 into this project.
Correct, sir. Yes, but you only have to submit those funds upon allocation of the award of tax credits from the Department of Community Affairs.
Well,
Condition
I understand that.
Right, okay.
It's like buying a car. You only have to pay for it when you buy it, right?
Right.
Commissioner Lucas.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Lucas.
Yeah, when y'all originally presented this, we had a lot of discussion about the church, and I'm very happy to see that y'all are back, because I wondered what was
Right.
going to happen with it. And I'm glad that community development has those funds set aside to loan to businesses that are going to do this development and increase our housing stock here, because we certainly are in need of it. But I wondered about the church and what was decided about that.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. We were very willing to come back and bring the church back into the development, but the actual Macon-Bibb Urban Development Authority actually has another plan for the use of that church. So that was taken out of this particular development.
Okay, I'd like to hear what that is, because that church is one of the oldest churches in Macon, if not.
I don't know what the plans are for that church, ma'am. I'll be very honest. Oh, I'm sorry.
Urban Development is
sorry.
represented there.
So when they brought back the new proposal, they actually presented the plan without the church included. So that's still just being marketed for development as an opportunity. So it's still separated as a separate parcel. And it's being marketed by Bob Lewis and Associates. We don't have a specific plan for the rest of that at this time.
Okay, the developers, though, did come back and that you presented something for the church. Could you tell us what that original plan was going to be?
Yeah, well,
remember?
Yeah, their original plan was to just use the church as a community building. Last time. But when they came back with this proposal, the church was actually removed from the development proposal so that they weren't converting that into a community building.
So what's going on at the church now?
Today the church is occupied by the members of the church.
Fulton Baptist.
Yes.
And they're having services.
Correct.
In there. So that part, I was real happy about the inclusion of plans for that church, since it is a historic church. So is the plan just for it to remain as do they pay rent to Urban Development Authority?
No, ma'am. When we were given the property several years ago, we were instructed to market it for the highest possible price and not to charge the church any rent. So we're open to other options, but it's a very awkward situation for sure.
Well, why did y'all return this to the developers? Why did you return without the plans for the church included? I mean, because that was why you had to go back and come back with, another plan, because of questions about the church, the use of the church. Because I think originally y'all were going to put apartments in there.
Correct.
And people had some concerns about that, so you came back with something else. So
Right, we came back with saying we would not use the church for residential units, right? And then
Right.
this year, when we came back, last year we were actually going to rent. We're going to have enter into a long-term lease with the Urban Development Authority. And this year we came back and we're buying the property. We're paying the full price and just leaving the church outside of the piece of land that we would buy, so that it could be left as a church.
okay, I would be wanting to hear what the final deal is on that church, because you're going to stir up a storm with that historic church if there's not something definite that's decided on it. I have a concern myself. We lost Tremont Temple, which was a historic black church, one of the few places where Dr. King spoke during his lifetime. A historic church, it's gone. This community, I don't think, will put up with another historically black church or any other historical church disappearing. And Fulton it looks to me like there needs to be something definite, at least for me. I can't speak for everybody else. But we saved Train Center, even though we stepped over in that, and we bought it, and so we've got it, and we're well on our way. So we can be well on our way toward making sure that Fulton Baptist stays as Fulton Baptist, a historic black church. Isn't it the oldest one? Isn't it isn't it the oldest? Is it the oldest church or the oldest black church in? Okay. In this community.
Right.
Okay. There's history there. We need to keep it.
Right.
We need to keep it.
Sure.
And Ms. Lucas, to that point, the covenants on it are that it cannot be demolished, no matter what happens.
All right, that's a good start.
Right, and Commissioner Gary Bechtel is the person marketing it, and he and I have already made commitments, assuming this moves forward, to meet with Pastor Johnson and come up with that solution. We just don't have it today.
Okay.
But we do not. You said some magic word. I will not allow this building to go away. Like that's not something that can happen on my watch.
Thank you very much, because I'd hate to pull back out. I still have those old marching shoes that Henry Ficklin and I used to use to jump over ditches when we were campaigning for Dr. Reverend Hope long years ago. Henry, you still have yours? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas.
Don't make me pull them back out.
Mr. Watkins, you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, and I guess just a little bit on the church scenario. I can't fault y'all at all for not coming back with a proposal on the church, because I remember when you were here, gave you a pretty hard time about it. So I say thank you. I can understand completely why you would have left it out. I want to follow up just a little bit on just like earlier you were speaking on construction cost. I was curious about like price per square foot. What are you seeing now versus I don't know, 6 months to a year ago?
Well, thank you for that question. I'm not the construction guy, but the price per square foot, I mean, lumber's gone up 300-400%. I mean, it's just crazy. So we're seeing the construction price going up about total construction price just about 30%, 30 to 40% is what we're seeing.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Tillman?
I was just wondering, why was this group back in front of us with this project? We've already authorized you, Mr. Mayor, back on June 2020. This body, this commission, approved this project with the church and its standings. And so my question to the director is, why are they back in front of us? And then why are the same amount of funds being approved for and not to include the church project? So why did you allow them back? Why did you give them the same amount of money without the church involvement? because we approved this back on June of 2020 last year. And I already authorized the mayor to go forward with this project. So can you share that with this body?
Yes, sir. And to speak to a couple of other questions too, is that in the resolution, we actually put in the resolution that it is contingent upon them receiving tax credits and the project must move forward within a year. In this particular resolution, it will expire in June. So that's why we're back here before you, because there is been not any movement as far as this particular property is concerned.
So therefore, then the agreement and the amount needs to go back and be reevaluated, because the church and everything that we discussed was included. So if that changes, then perhaps the amount needs to be changed and updated and give this commission information to consider on this project and not for approval. Because it is not June yet. I think the mayor may have signed it at the end of June. You still have a month and a half, so they're here. So the project is not, the year has not expired. I would think you'd be asking for an extension as opposed to coming back and saying, we've got a whole new plan that don't include our original plans of doing this church and remodelizing this church. We've saw this beautiful project put forth, but the idea should have been how do we move forward? Nothing supposedly changed but the church and some commissioners here. And sometimes, not to say anything, but that's sometimes an advantage of some of those that's been around to remember some of this stuff. I don't understand why we're approving and giving these folks the same amount of money, which they've changed their plans or the whole contract has changed. Because if you're saying it's going to expire by June, it hasn't expired, so the contract's still in its place. So we should be asking for an extension, and we should be, moving forward with a supplement from the Urban Development Authority to say, hey, we've got some new ideas and plans, and this is what we're going to do. But if it does not include that church, then the amount needs to be reduced as well. And I understand they're going to pay the money back. I understand it's part of the tax credit system. But I just wanted to bring these other commissioners up to date where we are and how this process works.
Yes, sir. And I will also say that the cost as far as construction has also increased since last year as a part of that particular conversation. And I did, the actual resolution from last year, as well as the current information, was sent to the county attorney's office to determine if it should be a new resolution or an amendment to the current resolution.
Judge?
Attorney McNeil, would that be you?
Because somebody really needs to, to see why. The value of the church has some value that now we're going to say we're going to build out around it and do what?
Attorney McNeil.
Just to address the question of the expiration date that Ms. Jackson referenced was the date by which they had to be awarded the grant funds from the Department of Community Services from the state. And so that is something that they only do once a year in November. And basically it created a one-year window. So if they got it that cycle, we would give them the loan. If they weren't selected last cycle, even though they got one of the highest scores out of the applicants, but so now they're coming back, and this is to grant them basically one more chance for this year's cycle. It's not June, we'll give you the money. It's June, you have to be approved by DCA, and that's not going to happen till November.
Well, let me go back on something. The original resolution, and I have it in front of me, because the mayor wants us to do research in advance, it states, whereas this is in June of 2020, whereas HCLP has expressed its desire that Macon-Bibb County provide $426,000 in financial support for the proposed revitalization and rehabilitation plan, which could be paid in one or more installments for fiscal year 2021 and fiscal year 2022. So again, why are we here? Because we was about to run out of time. Because the proposal we've already approved still stands in place for fiscal year 2021 and fiscal year 2022. And that is the resolution that was passed in June of 2020. And that's what it states.
I'm trying to pull that resolution up for you, Commissioner.
And I think the gentleman at the time has changed even the unit. And I'll go further, the unit, it was for 52 units. It was 31 bedroom and 21 two-bedroom units. So I think it changed. So yeah, you can, because I just want to go back because
you're right, Councilman. We had more units at that time, but then we had a discussion about the church, and we decided we would no longer use the church at all. That we would not put any residential units into the church, which is why we reduced.
Well, I think we established that last year because we said the church was going to be a community center. So that didn't change because the church was always a part of the plan. And I yield. I think we really need, as a commission, listen, we can approve this. I think it's a great project. But I do think that there is something different as to this church. But we're going to still give you the same amount of money, but you're not going to take the church. And I don't want that UDA or somebody to come back and say, oh, now we need some funding to help us with this church, when you guys had already agreed and we've already approved this entire plan.
What happened last year is that last year we were actually, we weren't buying the property. We weren't paying in $750,000 to the Development Authority. This year we are paying that amount of money.
So Judd or Michael, are we still good? Because it states that fiscal year 2021 to 2022, and maybe Michael can answer. I guess he's still looking. You want mine, Michael? You want a reference? I got mine pulled up.
I got it.
Okay.
So this is the resolution from last June. What it says. So we're in FY21. FY21 is what ends June 30th, and so. This says that if they got approved by Department of Community Affairs for the financing, then we would give the home funds loan sometime within FY20 or FY21. And so the approval from DCA is the precondition that has to happen before they get the loan money, and that has to happen before they can only get the loan money through June. So this new resolution goes from, it says FY21 and 22, and so it lets them, if they get approved by DCA in the fall, then we can give them up through June of next year.
Commissioner Wynn.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you. First of all, I want to piggyback on Commissioner Lucas. I was real concerned about the church and being used for apartments, and was not in favor of that at all. But let me understand. Let me clarify. Are we carving out the piece of property the church is on? That's not a part of your development at all, but you're going to develop all around it with what you showed, similar pictures. Okay, so the church is not involved in this at all, but yet it was, as Commissioner Tillman said, it was involved in the contract and the discussions last June of 2020. We did have a lot of discussions about the church. I'm just wondering, since we had the resolution and we passed it, I kind of thought this was a done deal. Do we just need to amend it some way to extend the time period, or can that be done? And
I think we need to vote it up or down, Commissioner Wynn. The difference I see this time is they're actually paying full cash value, where last time they were not doing that, and that's a substantial sum that we're going to have to work with. I also believe that it gives, removing the church from it gives us other options for that church, as opposed perhaps keeping it a church and coming up with some solutions there, or better marketing instead of including it with this project here. So I believe we're at a point now, Attorney McNeil explained the legal reason why we're here, that we need to support this if we're going to support it. Otherwise, this project may go away and we'll be back to square one.
I'm very much in favor of it, don't get me wrong, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wonder what happens to the old resolution we passed. Does it just go away too after we pass a new one? Is that what happens?
It'll be superseded by this.
Duke, I think you have a new name, Judd.
Judd, yeah.
I think my hair turned red.
Commissioner Tillman called him Judd, but yeah, it's still turning to.
He was thinking back in 2020.
So to answer your question, it would supersede the other resolution.
So if we vote on this, the other one's gone.
That's correct.
And I'm glad the church is not going to be disturbed. I really am. That's a historic building, and we don't need to tear any more of those down. I just worry about all that construction going on around it, but that's what it is. You did change your plans just a little bit on the apartments and such, or are the same as what we talked about last year?
The difference is on the new construction to be the same place, same massing amount. It's just that before it was for seniors, and this is now for workforce housing.
Okay.
So it'll be 2 and 3 bedroom units instead of 1 and 2 bedroom.
Yeah, I didn't hear you mention that workforce housing last time. Okay, yeah, I'm very much in favor of this. I just wanted to know what's going on with what we did last year in June.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Commissioner Clark, you have a question?
Yeah, just for my own clarification, the home grant funds, those are state dollars, and this is essentially, and forgive me for using a term of art here loosely, this is just a pass-through for us, correct? Where we are acting
these
as
are
a
actually
pass-through.
funds through the Department of Housing and Urban Development that are provided to us from the federal level. The state funds that they're talking about as a part of this particular project are the low-income tax credits.
So Macon-Bibb County is not incurring any cost here?
No, it's just the home funds, and we do it as a loan, and it's a repayment.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes, sir. The deal we approved last year is different. This one supersedes, voids, and replaces that. This is a better deal for us because they're purchasing the property. So I'd like to call for the question.
Okay, we have a non-debatable motion to call for the question. We got a second? Second by Commissioner Clark. All those in favor of calling the question, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. We'll now move on to call the question. First of all, just one moment. I get a motion to approve. Got Commissioner Wynn, second by Commissioner Jones. Discussion in that matter. Commissioner Watkins. I'm sorry. Got to call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. All right, we're back on game. Commissioner Tillman, you have a question now?
While the director's here, can I ask her just 2 other questions? How many more of these do we have? And what is the current update on these same funds that were supposed to be for Vineville Christian Towers? Because that project ended up being in front of this one. So what's happened to that project, if there's an update on that?
That resolution has expired at this time with regards to Vineville Towers, and that developer has not come back to us as to how they would like to move forward. They presented some information that they were going to go back to the state for tax credits, but at this time we have not received that proposal.
I would ask our administration to get code enforcement to go over there and see and do an assessment and get an update, because those folks came down here, we made some commitments and promises, and then this group came in and made a presentation to us. And so, until these here come up, so how do we know? We don't get a notice to say that somebody's coming here and asks us for $250,000 or $400,000, and now this money has expired and we can do something else with it. We don't get an update on that, because that was a very important project. This thing was all over the news. We had all those folks down here.
Actually, most of our projects come to fruition. Only in the last couple of years that we've had projects that have not come to the fruition. The majority of the ones that we've done with infill housing and some of the other ones, they've actually moved forward. So we don't have a lot of these type situations that they don't move forward, but we can implement something that once that exploration time period is coming up.
Well, Mr. Commissioner that's over there, please, we got to follow up and see what's going on, because those folks were suffering over there. And I think we all went over there, and so to see what's going on. Thank you so much for that update.
Thank you, Commissioner Tillman. Dr. Moffitt, if you'll please follow up with code enforcement, whatever we need to do on that. Thank you. Again, that motion carries, will be sent to consent agenda. We'll move on to item B, which is a resolution to accept a memorial tree donation at Henry Burns Park in memory of Don Moore and allow for the installation of a memorial plaque. That's sponsored by Commissioner Al Tillman and Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Commissioner Tillman, would you like to make that motion?
Yes, sir.
Got a motion by Commissioner Tillman, a second by Pro Tem Clark. Any discussion in that matter?
Yes, sir, Mr.
Commissioner
Mayor.
Tillman?
Don Moore was, just a little background on Don Moore. Don Moore was a banker for like 42 years. He actually founded the Downtown Rotary. But more importantly, there are a lot of Don Moores in this community. He also founded the Ingleside Neighborhood Association. He organized the first meeting, and he's done so much over there in the area. Unfortunately, Don passed away back in 2019, and they reached out to this administration and wanted us to just plant a tree in his honor over at Henry Barnes Park. I've reached out to the Neighborhood Association, in particular Rebecca Grice, because most folks may not know the park is named in honor of her grandfather, Henry Barnes, Mr. Henry Barnes. And so everybody is on board. Dr. Moffitt reached out as well, and I think this would be a deserving one. And again, there are so many folks like this in our community, and it's going to be an honor to do this in his honor. Thank you.
Commissioner Jones?
Just like to be added, he was a great community citizen and did a lot for the Ingleside area.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. We'll go ahead and take care of that for you, as well as after the vote next Tuesday, if everybody's successful, we'll go ahead and plan for an event to happen during that time. So we do have a motion and second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously to be sent to consent agenda. Item 8A is a resolution establishing new fees for Lake Tobosoffke Recreational Area. As previously noted, this is an informational item only today. I did see it on the news a couple of nights ago, but this is something that the director has asked for based on the new improvements, substantial improvements we've made out to Tobosoffke area and the park itself. He wants to bring the fees in line with the improvements that we have there. We believe they're quite undervalued. It does not change all the fees, just a few fees, mainly on the pavilions that we spend a lot of money on and we have such a high need for. So please review those. It'll be back on this calendar in 2 weeks for your consideration at Committee of the Whole. If you have any questions, please email us. We'll be happy to send you any sheets or comparisons that we've received in that regard. So that is our last informational item. We do not have a need to go into executive session today. I know we may have a couple of personal privileges or comments we'll make in just a second. We do have a site visit to John Deere and Yancey Brothers today, immediately after our meeting. These are our economic visits that we've scheduled here recently on our Committee of the Whole days, and we're going to go there. So at the completion of our comments by any commissioners or myself, we will adjourn, recess the meeting, and we'll adjourn upon completion of our site visit. Mr. Watkins.
My issue was on the Lake Tobo. On next week when you're providing information, could you also provide us with a breakdown of the most recent, well, not even like the last 3 years of price changes? Because we done changed the prices over there like 5-6 times.
Yeah, I
in
think
very short order.
They changed the prices on. I think it used to be $5 a person, then they went to $5 a carload. They saw a dramatic decrease in there, and I think Commissioner Allen's that. But I'll certainly get finance to give you a breakdown on that so we can see where we're at. I appreciate you asking. Commissioner Lucas?
Several weeks ago, I think we were going to do some research on the issue of firearms in our parks. I have not gotten any more notices that that parent that was carrying the firearm at the game out at Dolores Brooks Park, that he has returned fussing, but they still are concerned about it. So I just wondered if there was an update on that.
The attorneys are preparing a memo for and they'll be sent out to you shortly on an update on that, so we can get the word out to the constituents on that. It has not been completed this time. Should have it this week, according to Attorney Groover. Thank you. Commissioner Howell, did you have something?
I do. I've been working with the attorney's office pretty diligently in the last 2 or 3 weeks about a new scrap tire ordinance. That should be coming out, a final form, or at least a final rough draft that everybody will get a copy of in the next day or two. Please read through that and let me know if I'm missing something, or if I need to add something, or delete something. Please get involved in that, because it's a community-wide problem, and we need to get on top of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Howell. We do have a rough draft of that, making some final changes to, and we do plan on adding that to the committee in 2 weeks, if everything goes as planned. Once you get a copy of that, if you want to join on as a sponsor or have any changes, please let us know. Commissioner Wynn.
Just to follow up on Commissioner Lucas, are we going to get signs put up in the parks? I know we said that was one of the things we want to do about the guns, not allowing guns in the parks. Can we just at least get the signs up?
You'll receive part of a recommendation in the current law from our attorneys this week.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones.
Just a quick question. Where do we stand on the RFP for surveillance cameras that were put out regarding litter?
Attorney Frank Howard is handling that. I do not see him here right now, but I'll give you a report back on that. I know they've been drafting that and trying to compare it with other jurisdictions on there. So if it hasn't already gone out, I think it'll be going out shortly, as well as the RFP on the Fire Training Center while we're on that as well. So thank you for that question. Commissioner Tillman.
I would just hope we could look at fees for next year also for our regular swimming areas. I think that those charges hadn't changed in years. It's been $1. And so I think we can add that to the Lake Tobo and possibly looking at that too. I know how some of y'all may feel, but I mean, a lot of our folks go away to Disneyland, Disney World, and all these water parks, and we charge them $1. So we can look at it and look at our maintenance, because we just want to be as fair as possible. But I think our folks are looking for some improvements as well. And finally, the public needs to know that we are not short of gas. Y'all are making us short of gas by running to the gas station. Last night after 9 o'clock, Sam's closed at 8 o'clock. After 9 o'clock, there was a line all the way out Eisenhower. Just people think we run out of gas. Same way we run out of chicken. We ain't run out of chicken. We ain't gonna run out of gas. So toilet paper and all that. So y'all really keep up what's going on, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Appreciate everyone here today. It's been a good week for Macon-Bibb County this last week as far as getting some things done on the blight. We still have our challenges on other things that we'll talk about in the very near future. But I do want to give you an update. We've torn down, I think, as of this morning, 20 of the houses that have burned out, and we're well on the way to our 30th house in 30 business days. And I think we're making some good progress. I'll also let you know that we sent out 63 newsletters to residential owners as well, and we've received comments back letters back from approximately 20-something of those indicating they're going to remediate the house or tear their own house down. Many of you know we sent out a couple of letters last time, and we've had 3 houses that have been torn down by the owners instead of having to be torn down by Macon-Bibb County. So I think they realize that we're serious about this. We continue to appreciate all your help and your support, and we're getting better to that. I mentioned the budget a little bit earlier. I appreciate several of you have met with me personally one-on-one to discuss some priorities that you have for the budget. We still have at least 3 more that have not, and I hope that we can get that scheduled this week. This is my attempt to allow input early on before we do the first budget proposal, even though it's my proposal the first week next Tuesday. We'll do that at pre-commission at 5 o'clock. I do not anticipate taking the whole hour, but we'll do that at 5 o'clock. It won't be a question and answer, as you may know. It's just a mere presentation that we'll have on a PowerPoint and let you know where we're at, some recommendations that I have, and some emphasis. But that information is coming from you. So what you see next Tuesday will be information that I gathered during our meeting ahead of time for the budget process. I don't want to open up a can of worms because we'll be leaving here shortly, but just you'll get a lot of questions about the ARP, the ARP, American Rescue Plan. have still not received all the regulations yet, even though we've got some funds allocated. I'll be talking to our finance director to see if we've got those funds in yet. But we don't have to be in a rush immediately to spend those funds. My preference would be to get through this budget process first. And I have scheduled the proposal on the 18th of May with a hope to have a final vote by commission on June the 15th. We're working through a process, and I've been talking to each one of you when you come to my office on the budget on a mechanism for the use of the funds for the American Rescue Plan. One of my preferences would be to come up with a survey for all of our constituents with certain priorities so they can have input on that. Once we receive that input, we can have a hearing on there, but also get input from each of you here on the Horseshoe on what you may recommend. Keep in mind, you are elected officials. You are the people who make the decision. They have elected you to make this decision. So although we do appreciate and want their impact, their input, you've already been elected to make those decisions that we need to make. We have to have the regulations. We all have in our mind, and we've heard from constituents on how they would like to use it, but we have to look at the regulations to make sure that we make ourselves whole and our community as whole in the most efficient manner possible. I did attend the school board's meeting last night. They presented a plan after receiving some information themselves from their teachers and some of their stakeholders on how they wish to spend their $100 million that they're getting. We're not getting that much, but they're getting that money. And they have regulations already that they'll be getting in that regards, and they have a hearing set up for Wednesday for anyone who wants to provide any input. But they've outlined approximately how they want to spend that money. So just keep in mind, I'm not want to get into a discussion today about this item here because we're not prepared to do that until we get the regulations. We don't have the time restraints that you had before as much, from what I understand. And then the second part of the money, if we get the second part of the money, last time we did not, will be something that we have a longer period of time to approximately 2024, 25 to do so. But we do want to use it in the most efficient manner possible, and we will have open conversations about that, and we will all have our equal input on that. So, Commissioner Watkins, you want to close us out for Lee?
And thank you for the update on the AARP, but within that I didn't hear like a concrete, we will be having a work session on this issue type thing, which I mean, it was past time for us to do. The National Association, or what NACO is released, like a 47-page document providing guidance. GMA has done the same thing. We know the amount. I understand that there hasn't been a official document or whatever on guidelines, but there's a lot known by cities that are making plans. Like you say, the school boards released a plan, and we're still, as a body, on zero. And like within the next week or two, we need to be doing this. I mean, that's I don't know if it's a request or what, but I just know we need to be having formal group conversations on this, because the money is, my understanding, might be hitting the bank account like this week.
Yeah, I appreciate the input. What I don't want to do, and I do know that there's some other counties doing that. I've seen the mistakes that was made last time by this body or the regulators, but I do want to make sure we have the regulations. The reason I want to get through the budget first is because, quite honestly, we want to make sure that we address any budget items that could not be put in the budget. We could use that for American Rescue and vice versa. We want to make sure we know the regulations, but the last thing you want to do is bring something up that you intend on doing with the budget and supplant that with the ARP money, which I think
I know how people are, and if there's money sitting in the bank account, and I think the expectation is that it won't get spent until the body has decided on how it gets spent. That's, real tempting for anybody in charge.
Yeah, I understand, but I think that we get through our budget. When I say around the Horseshoe, that is a work session. So if I didn't specifically say that, that's what that is for this body. But I do think we need to get input. We're developing surveys now, but we have to have those regulations. Specifically, I'll be addressing that with Ms. Moore on Thursday. Those regulations first, so we can completely digest that. We've been listening to the NACO and doing all that over the last month or so. But if you just sat into that first meeting and made decisions based on that, it would be not what happened at the 6 week or 8 week, because it's ever changing. and we make sure we have the most updated information. A lot of people who made decisions on how they were going to spend that money 2 months ago are now realizing they can't spend it in that manner. So I do think that patience is a virtue. There's no need to rush to an extent where we make bad mistakes. We will have a work session. We will have public input, and we are working on a survey so we can reach all the constituents in the social platform and get as much information as we can. So we certainly plan on having a work session where everybody gets input. Of course, you have to vote on spending the money anyway. So it's,
Understanding correctly, right now we understand that we're all at zero, even though we may have money in the bank, that there are no plans and there is absolutely no document or reason to be spending money because nothing has been approved. There's zero that's able to come out of that fund. That's where we are until we meet about it as a body and vote, right?
That's correct. That's correct. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Watkins. If no further business, we'll be in recess until the completion of our site visit.